the American Express office, kind of a triangle building a little bit on a corner back then. And we thought, we just got this wild hair. It's like, we didn't have anything to do that day. It's like, why don't we walk down to the Eiffel Tower? Okay. So we're just kind of walking, and we don't know where we're going, and we probably walked about 5 miles that day. But we walked down to this, I think they call it the Ponce de Leon, and it's just this world famous walkway through Paris, and it's got fountains down through it, and the Arc of Triumph is way at the other end of it. You can see pictures of the German soldiers marching down that street. I stood right out in the middle of that street and took a picture of the Arc of Triumph, and about halfway down there, the Eiffel Tower's on the left. It was kind of foggy that day, so we didn't know this because you don't have Google back then. It's like the Ponce de Leon, at one end is the Arc of Triumph, at the other end there's a museum, and that's where the Mona Lisa's at. So I've got a picture of this building that I was taking a picture of because of the architecture. I went, wow, the architecture here is really cool. Like, all the buildings kind of match, and they have these big arches and stuff like that because they're built out of rock. And well, that Mona Lisa was in there. We didn't even know, so we didn't see that. So we kind of started on this pyramid thing and walked down this park, and there's naked statues, and you kind of, even at 19, you're like, oh yeah, Paris, the city of love, So really a cool day, and there, I think there's a river that goes down through there with a bunch of bridges across it. So again, it's foggy, kind of foggy, low fog hanging, and so you couldn't see real well. And so we're just kind of walking along, and we cross one of these bridges because we know the Eiffel Tower's on the left, and we're not really paying attention, and we knew it was around there somewhere, but we hadn't seen it. Normally, like on a clear day, you'd see it and you could just walk towards it. And so we came around this building bush, and all of a sudden it's like, here's the Eiffel Tower. It's like, wow, this thing is huge. I mean, just the bottom arch. I mean, there's cars parked under there that look like ants, and this bottom arch, and I took a picture of it. When you see the picture of the big arch on the bottom, it stunned me. I just stopped with the camera. I go, I gotta have a picture of this. This thing's unbelievable. And I don't think at that time, I might be wrong, there was a road going through there. Now you see pictures of it, and the highway goes right underneath there. And there's a big park off to the left. We didn't know anything about that. So we get up to the Eiffel Tower, and we're looking up there. It's like, well, it's pretty cool. And it was like $1.50 or something to go to the top, and it's foggy. You couldn't see the top of it. We just decided, let's just not go up there. You're not going to be able to see anything. So we didn't. We ended up buying a hot dog, and probably with $1.50, and so Bill made this joke about, so we get all the way to the Eiffel Tower, and we don't go up the Eiffel Tower, but we buy a hot dog. So we had a pretty good laugh about that. So we end up walking all the way down to the Arc of Triumph, and so anyway, that was a great day, just walking through Paris. And so the day comes that we're going to get on this charter flight and fly back to New York City. And it was a pretty long flight for back then. It was about 8 hours. And what it was I think what this whole student body card thing was a bunch of college kids go over to Europe for the summer. Some of them have money, some of them don't. Most of them spend all their money and they can't get home. So somebody probably set this thing up so let's at least get our kids back, So they set up this thing, and because it was all legit. I mean, I don't know what the deal was with the student body cards, but I mean, it got you the ticket. It was $100. So anyway, I noticed on the plane they serve two different meals, and they're serving these 3/4 size bottles of wine with the meals, and everybody's drinking them. And I turn around, and I kind of looking at this, and I go, this is a charter of a bunch of college kids that are just coming back like after school. It was probably like end of June-ish, and they'd probably gone to college over there for the summer, or for college for a year or whatever. Anyway, they were flying home for the summer, and so anyway, it was just a big party is what it was. So we get to JFK, John F. Kennedy Airport, New York. We get about halfway to customs. Oh, one of the things in Paris was one time we were trying to hitchhike up to by London, and Bill left this bag I had was full of, I had a coin collection from every country we'd been in, every coin up to $1, and paper dollar thing. Still got some of the paper dollar left over, but that I had in my passport. And all these little trinkets that you buy that were inexpensive, but just the collection of stuff that I had in the shaving bag, and he'd left it on a subway in Paris. So it was gone. It was kind of a drag. So anyway, then I realized that, I didn't realize this till years later, but nothing against Bill, but it was kind of funny when I hit on the pattern of, he left his wallet in Hawaii with his last $5 in the phone booth. He left his cowboy hat out in Australia at this gas station, and they would call it petrol. They wouldn't call it gas station. They call it petrol station, or maybe fuel, but it wouldn't be gas. They use petrol. And then he left my bag on that subway in Paris. But anyway, we're getting back to New York City, and so we're on our way down to Washington, D.C. to see my Uncle Earl and Aunt Dean, my dad's older brother, that works in the FBI and the CIA. So we get into JFK, and I get halfway to customs off the plane, and I'm like, oh, I forgot my bag with all my photographs in it that I had. The film, most of it I hadn't had developed yet. I just, the only 2 rolls I had developed were in India, and they got stolen out of our room, so that was a real drag. So I go back in the plane, and they're kind of like, hey, what are you doing getting back on the plane? I go, I got a bag on here, don't worry, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, we get to customs, no problem. So we walk into, John F. Kennedy Airport. And we're like, remember, we've been on an 8-hour flight, have no idea what time it is. I don't know if thinking we left at like 8 o'clock at night, Paris time. But we got into JFK kind of in the morning. And so, we've been hanging loose for a while. We go, well, we don't have a clue where we're going. We're looking for the Greyhound bus depot in New York City is what we're looking for. We don't have a clue where it's at. So let's just get on a bus and see where it takes us. So we get on one of these city transit buses at the airport, pay the fare. We're probably driving around for a couple hours. We get to this stop, and the bus driver comes back and says, hey, this is the end of the line, man. You guys need to get off the bus. Bill and I kind of looked at each other and said, okay, it starts here. Let's go. And I mean, crazy stuff. We were walking around underground. We came up through this kind of carnival type stuff. I mean, New York City, you can't describe it. So somehow we found out that the Greyhound bus depot was on 42nd Street. I believe it was 42nd Street. So we're walking and walking and walking. And we're at the blocks there, and we're from Jacksonville. A block is a couple 100 feet. In New York City, a block could be a quarter of a mile. So we're around 39th Street, 40th Street. We're thinking, hey, we're pretty close. We're looking for 42nd Street. So. And Bill's got this suitcase that was a wicker basket thing that he bought in India. And he's got his stuff in it. And we're carrying all the stuff, packs, guitar, the suitcase, all the stuff. And the guy stops us on the sidewalk because he noticed this suitcase. And the guy was from India. He goes, hey, where'd you get that suitcase? It's like, well, we got it in India. But yeah, I figured so. So anyway, we talked to him, it seemed like, for half an hour. He was just elated to, talk to somebody that'd been to India, I guess. Can't blame him. Anyway, he got us squared away. He goes, well, and I don't know if I have this right, but we were like 42nd Street uptown, and we needed to be 42nd Street downtown, which is way down there. So I got a call. Let's see what's going on from Sandy. Hi, Annie. Okay. Oh yeah, sounds good. If they have fresh mushrooms, it might be kind of nice to put a couple mushrooms in there for the stir fry. That'd be good. So what? Right at the right. Yeah. I mean, if they have them, fine. If they don't, yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I think we got enough apples. Okay. Right. Yeah. Could be. Could be. Okay. Sounds good. Love you, Annie. You bet. Right. I figured they were going to do more blood work because even if you had blood work, they want to do it again, so they've got something to compare it to. Is it getting worse? Is it getting better? What's getting out of hand? What's not getting out of hand? Stuff like that. Right. 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 Good. Oh, good. Yeah. Right. Right. So another bump in the road, huh? Right. Okay. Okay, sounds good, honey. You bet. Love you. Bye-bye. Okay, that was Sandy. She was getting back from the doctor on a blood test for something in her blood. So, we are up around 42nd Street uptown, and we want to go 42nd Street downtown. This guy from India is telling us. So, we get on a subway, we go down into the subway, and it's like, this is huge compared to France. And in France and London they had like 2 tracks or something. I mean, and you get down and below New York and it's like there's like 13 tracks, and we got on the wrong one. We got on an express one which only stops about every 6th stop, and so by the time we figured that out, we were probably 5 miles further away from where we wanted to go. And so we turn around, we finally get down there. By now it's getting dark, it's night. So we finally find the Greyhound bus depot. So, you know, we're from Medford. You know, there's 2 buses a day drop by in Medford. Well, the Greyhound bus depot in New York City is like 3 floors of Greyhound buses, like 50 buses on each floor, you know, trying to figure out which one's going to Washington, D.C. And it's at night. It's dark anyway. So we get on a bus and we head towards Washington, D.C. And I do remember seeing the my mind just went blank from talking to Sandy, but at that time the tallest building in the world, I guess, or in the United States or something, Empire State Building. I do remember seeing it off in the distance, you know, and we're going by in the bus, and so we get down to Washington, D.C., so I'll take a little break here and we'll see what's going on.